Well, hello everybody and good morning. It is Kara from Nine Lives Paranormal, and I'm here with my friend Lance Reha, the director of Still, which is a official selection of The Hollow and is going to be shown in its entirety. And I wholly recommend that you guys check this out. So with further ado, here is my friend Lance. Good morning.
Morning,
Lance.
everybody.
Morning, and we're all here with our coffee this morning. We were talking about our Keurig running. That's right, So let's hear about Still. Let's talk about it. So tell me about
Okay.
Still.
So, Still came about. I wanted to do something. I do mostly horror, thriller, drama, but mostly on the horror thriller side. So the writer said to me, this is based on truth, that the writer has sleep paralysis. He's had it in the past. And when he started telling me what it's actually like to have that, it was pretty horrifying, where you can't move and sometimes you feel like there's a presence in the room, or you see things. And he's also a paranormal investigator. They did a show here on Staten Island, Scared on Staten Island. Brian Cano, who's all over, you probably know Brian.
Yeah.
He's we're all friends. So I said to Chris, the writer, maybe write something, come up with a story based around sleep paralysis. And that's how Still was born. But of course, when you see the movie at the end, we took artistic license to make it more exciting. But it is a very real thing. The more I researched it online and watched people's stories, it is a real thing, and it's pretty terrifying.
Yeah.
They call these people shadow people, that people think that they see when they're in this paralysis. So, and you'll see that.
Yeah, I only had one. I only had one episode in my entire life of sleep paralysis, and it was like I can't. Unless you've had it, you can't express the terror of having this, for lack of a better word, hallucination of something happening and you can't move, but you're
Right.
aware that you can't move, and
Right.
it's terrifying. It really is. And it's funny that you talk about it. I just did a lecture last weekend, and I talked about sleep paralysis a little bit. And a woman came up to me and she was like, I had this episode of sleep paralysis and I want to know if it's paranormal. And so I said, well, if you had it again? And she's like, no. And I said, but did it transform you in some way? Like, did it stick with you? And that was the key for her, that it stuck with her for all these years, that terrifying, transformative, transformative experience. And you see that in your main character, things, going off the rails after a while.
Yeah, well, he said that I'd be laying there next to my wife and I could only move my eyes. I couldn't even really. I think he said once he was able to just move his hand to touch hers, and she woke up and got him out of it. And they were doing an investigation. This is totally off subject, but
That's
he was
fine.
doing an
We're good.
investigation, and he felt he was touched. They were experiencing something pretty creepy in this abandoned hospital. And he said he was touched, and ever since that day, he's worn a crucifix and this is a guy that really didn't, ever wear anything. And he said, I was so freaked out. I feel like I need protection. But the sleep paralysis sticks with him because he still said he doesn't have it as much anymore. But he says, I'm always afraid when I go to sleep, it's going to be there.
Absolutely. So now, in terms of in the film, tell me about how you cast it. How did that work to get, because your actors and actresses, they were pretty spot on. When I was, from seeing the terror and the reaction and all that other kind of stuff from between them, the dynamic between them. So how did that go? Were they people you knew? Did you have an open call?
These guys, I knew them from other meeting them at film festivals, and other filmmakers I know use them. So we didn't even have to do audition. I contacted them and said, "Are you guys interested? Here's the script." And, "Oh, I love it. This is challenging. I would love to try it." Sometimes what I'll do is I'll ask them to make a reel at home,
Hmm.
read some of the lines so I can get an idea how they're gonna, play on screen. But yeah, these guys I knew who they were, so that it was pretty easy casting them.
Was it hard for them to get into character and portray the amount of terror that that was that challenging for them, or did they slip right in?
Uh,
Because it seems like it would be a mentally taxing kind of character to play.
yeah, some of those scenes that we have were challenging. There is one scene where one of the characters, you'll see a tear roll down his eye, so he had to get into that headspace uh, to do that. I'm always amazed by that. Nowadays, they use something that they rub on their eyelid.
Hmm.
It's like a Vicks, Vicks
Hmm.
vapor rub, and it makes your eyes tear. But not these guys will take a second, and they'll go off, and they'll just sit down, and you'll see them like concentrating, and he'll go, "Okay, I'm ready," and then all of a sudden the tears. I'm always amazed by that. But they bring themselves to a place of sadness. Remember, who knows what they're remembering, but I'm pretty amazed by it. But they took time together while we were setting up equipment. They were in the other room, and I'm listening the whole time. I hear them going through lines and yelling and screaming, and okay, I'll do this and I'll do that. So I'm known to, as a director, I let my actors, I give them a lot of space. I don't want to be I don't want them to feel constricted. Like, if they want to bring something to the screen that's in them, I let them go. I mean, if it's too much, I pull them back. But I like to give them a lot of room, a lot of
Yeah.
space, and it's worked for me because I've gotten pretty good performances out of people.
Oh yeah. I mean, the performances, like I said, when we were off camera, we were talking about how myself and the other two people who are looking at the films for the Hollow, we were talking about how it was done, and it's just creepily done. I mean,
Yeah.
it's terrifying. It really is terrifying. So in terms of location, did you have to scout, or was it your house, or how did it work?
A friend's house. Actually, the guy who played the Shadow, it was his house. He lives right up the street from me. And I said to him, I said, Greg, what do you think about us using your house? Usually people are like, no problem.
Hmm.
And he said, "Yeah, I think we did that. It might have been 2 weekends, 2 Sundays or whatever, because everybody works. So at this stage, it has to be on a weekend, Saturday, Sunday. So yeah, it was 2 weekends in his house, so it was no problem. He owns the house, so we could make as much noise as we want, stay as late as we want. So yeah, no, that was easy, and it was up the street from me, so it wasn't a big trek.
Oh no, that's
So,
great.
yeah.
It sounds like you had all the pieces together.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, nowadays, when my right is right, I'll tell them, our constraints. We don't have a budget. We're not Paramount. We can't just go anywhere. New writers will send me scripts. Okay, so we pull up on a scene and there's an ambulance and cops and is it? I'm like, oh, whoa, I can't do that. I don't have the resources to do that type of stuff. So they write around our, what we can afford, really.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's really key. Like I was, and this isn't talking about still, but when I talk about writing, it's like to get the best script you could possibly get about in what is available to you. So, like for me, it's like, well, it's like I'm gonna have to do found footage because I don't have all the tech, and I don't have all this, the space. So it's gonna have to be
Right.
in a home like environment, to make it like, from a ring camera to make it look,
Yeah.
believable,
Yeah.
and I do think also with this is part of the artistry of what you did, because it's the subject matter and the is made for how you shot it and where you shot it. There's no, it's simple enough,
Right.
to be terrifying, because I personally think the best horror is something that we can relate to. And
Right.
how much more terrifying is it that you're in your own headspace, in your own house, which is your safety. And this
Right.
is,
That's why I say to people, do you ever notice most really good horror films don't have major stars in them?
right.
Because, like, I couldn't get into Al Pacino running through the woods scream. I just couldn't. it wouldn't work. To see unknowns or basically unknowns always worked in horror films.
Right.
Unless it's like Silence of the Lambs or The Shining or something like that. The horror films we love, Friday the 13th, the Halloween, all those, it's usually unknown actors. Because I
Yeah.
think it makes us feel like you said, they're like we can relate,
Yeah.
you can relate to that. Real horror is what's really scary,
Right.
so
Right. I mean, the most horrifying things that happen to everyday people. Unfortunately, but it's, like you said, unless it's a major blockbuster, you're not gonna. It's
right,
everyday people that are gonna
right,
have it. So
right.
in terms of the movie, how much in with the sleep paralysis and all that, did you have to consult any outside kind of people, or was it just your conversations with your friend, and that it was born out of that?
It was mostly born out of his experiences. He knows a couple other people that have had it, and he might have talked to them too because they're into the paranormal also. But most of it was his experiences with sleep paralysis.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, so and again, he knew, don't go over a certain amount of pages. We want to keep it a certain length, but we want to make the ending shocking, not just. So that's why I said we took artistic license um, in the end, because what happens in the end wouldn't really happen.
No,
I don't think. Who
you
knows?
you would hope not.
I don't think so. But so and we never really. I don't know if you could say we never really know what did happen. Was it in their heads? Was it not? Was it an intruder? What was it?
What was
So
it?
yeah,
Yeah, the big question mark.
yeah,
It's the
yeah,
it's the big question mark.
yeah.
And now I just had a question about what you were talking about, and and I lost it, but it'll come back to me. This is what happens early in the morning. I just like lose my train of thought. But
Need more of this.
yeah, right. I'm working on it. So anyway, when we talk about the movie, tell me about the camera work, because you had some interesting camera shots in it. What? So
Yeah.
talk about that.
I usually shoot all my own movies. I have for years, but over the last couple of years, I said I want to start letting somebody else handle that, and I want to just concentrate on directing, um, editing, even like sound. I have a sound guy, but I always put the headphones on to make sure he's getting the right audio because I've had experience with that in the past where I get home and I'm like, oh my God, it's wrecked, whatever. So I got a cameraman for the last few films, this guy Mike, and yeah, he's a wedding videographer. And I said, this is going to be different. We're not all on a tripod constantly. There's a lot of movement. There's special I like angles. I like weird
Yeah.
angles, interesting things. So yeah, he did a great job. He had that whole opening shot is him on he has like this steady cam thing through the
Uh-huh.
house. And so I actually did use somebody, but I'm always saying, Mike, close up, Mike, this, Mike, from the top, from so I'm throwing out shots that I want him to capture.
That's great, because it's really, and I like, how you do that, because even though you're not directing it, I was meaning the camera, not directing the
Right,
camera, in terms of behind the camera, you're seeing it as we're seeing it, because
right,
you're not behind the camera.
right.
So you can get a better perspective of how it's going to look to us, if you're not behind the little screen, which I always found challenging, because I'm always going like this. you
Yeah,
know
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know so what do you think was the most, not to spoil it for everybody, but what do you think was the most moving, or yeah, I would say moving, or emotional scene in the movie?
Oh, I would say probably, well, for sadness type is the last
Sadness,
part.
terrifying, which you pick.
It was probably the last encounter that they have in the bedroom.
Yeah.
I'll just put it that way. That was, pretty sad because of his reactions, the husband's reactions.
Yeah.
Um, but they had a good banter back and forth. We really believe they were husband and wife.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
in the kitchen for breakfast was a nice little scene.
That's a good scene.
The scene on the couch when she's explaining to him what sleep paralysis is a nice little banter scene. But as far as like the most powerful scenes are in the bedroom when they have the sleep paralysis experience. Well, he
Right.
does until she does. Well,
Until she does. Right.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. The scenes, I felt that the scenes, like you said, the banter between the husband and the wife, really sent it home,
right,
because you're giving a perspective, like the guy's going through it, right? Like he's
right,
going through it. And, you see them trying from an outside point of view, trying to,
right.
like a better word, come to grips with what's happening. And, so to me, those were really powerful.
Well, like she's saying, oh, it's a ghost, and he's like, it's not a ghost, it's real. It's real. And then she says, well, maybe you should talk to somebody. And then he gets pissed off. Like, well, I'm not talking to no psychiatry,
Right.
and then, so you're starting to feel what they're feeling.
Yes.
Like she really doesn't believe it too much. It's
No.
obvious she don't believe him. But then, then I think she starts to that's when she researches what it actually is. And she says, I found out what you're going through. But as we find out, it's a little more than that.
Right.
But,
Right.
and those scenes, I've been asked by other festivals, how did I pull that off? I don't want to say too much, but the shadow person,
Right.
that was real. It wasn't CGI.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it
Really?
was real. Yeah, it was an actor. The guy who owns the house, Greg. Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
all those like different movements are all him, and with editing, you could do
Do
things in
stuff.
editing, but it's real. It's not fake, not CGI.
Wow.
I'm
That's
from the old
incredible.
school of I like practical effects. I'll use stuff here and there, like maybe blood spurts or whatever.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I try to do it in camera.
That's
So,
fantastic. Bringing that now that you mentioned that, that's like really, that's fantastic. That brings it back, like, old school. But that also now lends to why it's so terrifying. It really does. So,
would like in a horror movie that somebody appears in this doorway and I don't realize it. If all of
oh,
a sudden somebody looked around, that would be
that would be
cool.
great. That would be awesome. But believe you me, I'll have viewers checking everything out. They'll be looking, they'll be analyzing everything.
uh, but I think we were talking about that the Shadow Man was real, was practical, was an actor, in costume and all that, and the way it was shot. So
Yeah, we were that, and I was saying that brings it, that throws it back old school, where everything was done, almost like Hitchcock s, where where everything is like done
right,
in real time. Did you?
it's
I lose
done.
you again.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's done with lighting. It's done with camera work. The horror films that I love, the slashes from the '80s were all practical effects. Tom
Yeah.
Savini and all those guys. So
Yeah.
done with a lot of. You had to know what you were doing. You know, like
Absolutely.
Hitchcock was a master of suspense, a master of lighting, a master of camera moves. So I
Right.
guess growing up liking that stuff is put me into my own, gave me my own style. And people ask me who did you like as a child? George Romero, right?
Yeah.
Simple. Night of the Living Dead was where I started.
Yeah. That's
My
a
favorite
fantastic
horror
movie.
movie. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And I love it. And I love watching it. And when it comes back on TV, it's like I turn it on, I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's get back to that. And we were going to talk about, I wanted to ask you about, in terms of paranormal influence, and you mentioned you do know paranormal investigators. How much of paranormal investigators do you use to influence some of your material, or is this the first one where you actually kind of drew upon that?
It's basically the first film that I've made that you could say is influenced by paranormal. But like I said, the writer who I've used a lot, um, that's what he was doing full time. They would go all over the country and investigate abandoned places and stuff like that. So anything he's written for me in the past, I think always had that little bit of in the back of his head. He always had that little bit of paranormal, could it be? Could it not be?
Yeah,
So yeah.
it always leaves the question. Now, in terms of with the film, what do you think, you know is the, I don't want to use the word scariest, but we're gonna. Well, what do you think is the most terrifying part? Now, to me, as a viewer, and I look at things a little differently. I think the most terrifying part is the realism of it, like with going back to the banter between the husband and the wife. You
Right.
know, that's that. Almost like a hereditary type of thing. It's not so much what's happening; it's the effect and the deconstruction of the family that becomes terrifying to me. But in terms of your film, what do you think is the most terrifying part?
I think what you said, that he's going through this horrible experience and she doesn't believe him for the most part, for most of it. And you start to see it break down. He's getting worse. She's trying to figure out what it is. And yeah, that probably is worse than the actual event. When your partner doesn't believe what's going on, you're suffering through this.
Right.
And there's little things as a director I have to just throw in.
Go
Like
ahead. I want you to.
there's a couple of scenes when they're speaking and the musician added in very faint in the background. You'll just hear these little musical cues. I love that stuff because to me, it's like it's there, it's in the other room, and you'll hear this little cue underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah, because music makes the movie. Because
Oh
if
yeah.
you watch a movie without music, it's not,
It's like,
it's yeah, it just takes it away. And but no, back to your question, I think the couple breaking down of course, the scenes themselves of
right.
what he's experiencing and the way we shot it and what it's actually doing to him was pretty terrifying. But maybe like I said, in the very end, they both experience it, and that's pretty scary.
Yeah.
You know,
So
but
let's go back, because it is a good point, that you're talking about in terms of the music and how it enhances your film. It really, like, making it, well, let me put it this way. Still, in terms of what's happening to him, is a very sensory experience, correct?
right.
And the music elevates it to that point in
Yes.
terms of the film. So, you know, in terms of the music and the music choices, right, that you made for it to have that certain effect. Can you talk about that a little bit for me?
Well, I've started using a musician who actually lives here, and she saw my work and she said, I would love to do this. You have the vision I have. I love your style. You're like a throwback,
Yeah, yeah,
80s, and I would love to do it. So I give her pretty much leeway to because I like her style. So I say, go ahead, make the score, send it to me, and we'll see. And then maybe I'll make tweaks here. Sometimes maybe it will be not enough or too much. Or then sometimes I'll listen to her because she's a musician and she'll say, no, that's enough. We only need to put a little bit in there and they'll get it. And but I do have in my head. I'll usually send. Some musicians don't like it. I'll send they call it a
yeah,
temp track. So I'll find music that's already made, even if it's from a movie, and I'll put it in and I'll say, this is what I'm thinking. This type of
right,
music. So, but yeah, no, I look forward to seeing what the musician comes up with all the time. Because then when I put it down on the track and I watch it, I'm like, yes, that's it. Yes, I feel it. I feel that scene.
right,
Like the whole opening scene with the camera going through, you feel like already something's wrong.
yeah,
It's just like this dark room and this echoey music. It's like something's not right here.
right.
So
Right. You get that. You get the presence of something being there without you seeing
right.
that something is there. And it's wonderful that you said that, because my son is he's trying to be a audio engineer,
Hmm.
and the one thing that he talks about is the emotion that goes behind, what he creates. When he creates something, he doesn't like, and it shocked me, because he was like, I don't want to convey a song, I want to convey
Right.
what I'm feeling, right?
Hmm.
So if he's like, I'm happy, then this is going to reflect that. And then the second thing is, what his instructor, it tells him, is that you're going to get a person such as yourself that's going to come to you with a clip, and you have to riff off that clip to get that
Right.
emotion, and that becomes the talent,
Right.
you know
Right.
so so it's it's, to me, it's fascinating to hear all these things, that I glean from other people, and I see them put into practice, and I'm like, oh, that's what I'm seeing,
Yeah. Yeah.
as a viewer, as a viewer,
Well, it also helps if you have the same vision that the director is going in.
Right.
Because if you're going in another way, you're just going to bump heads the whole way. He's not going to like what you're making. You're not going to agree with what he wants. But usually you come to some type of understanding. But to find someone who's on the same level and going in the same direction works.
That's great. And you seem to be fortunate that you found so many people that have the same vision, and like within such a small area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I've been doing it a while, and a lot of people say, "Oh, I know who you are. I know your work. I'd love to work on something. I'd love to be a part of it." And most people say, I don't even want anything. I try to give people something nowadays. When I first started, no one wanted any money.
Oh,
They
wow.
just wanted to be involved. I
Yeah.
just want to be involved with this. I want, whether I'm working behind the scenes, I'm in it, whatever. No one wanted. But then as years went on, oh, they want travel money, and which is, I understand, it's
Yeah.
expensive, gas and tolls and all that stuff. So now we try to pay people for their work, for the day's work, or even the musician, try to give them money. Or she'll say to me, I need a photo session done in my studio. Okay, so you make the track, I'll do the photo session, you know. So you try to get it, we get it done no matter how what we have to do. And
Yeah.
being I'm used to doing, when I started, I did everything. Camera, directing, editing, lighting, audio, everything, effects. So I'm used to doing everything myself. So if I have to, I will. I'll do the movie by myself. But,
It's great.
you know,
It's great, really, to get your product out there. It's kind of like you do have to learn everything, because
yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah,
how else are you going to get it done? But it's true. It even, doing it for the love of it, it's like I still try, to surround myself with people, and it has nothing to do with the money. Like you said, if I'll pay for your gas, I'll pay for your meals, whatever,
right.
but to do it for the love of it, just to be excited to be part of it, like, this is happening, we're creating something, that
Oh
this is,
yeah.
you know
And everyone feels like that on set. Everyone is like excited to be there, and a lot of people will say, I know your work and I want a reel from this. A lot of the actors will say, I know what this is going to be like, so that reel is going to get me other work. And I'm like, well, thank you, that's nice to hear, you have
yeah.
that much, belief in what we're doing.
Yeah,
So
no,
yeah.
it's fantastic to be at that part and point in your career,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's really an accolade. It's really an accolade, and to you. And um I wanted to ask you, because this, came from the sleep paralysis, and it was written by a person that, has paranormal experience, or what have you. Just because, did anything creepy happen on the set?
I don't think so. I mean, no, not really.
Oh, good.
Not that I remember. I don't. Maybe if I look back at the footage, maybe.
No, just this blackout that we had for.
Well, that, yeah. I mean, that we don't have them. It's beautiful out, and
Yeah.
that was weird. I'm yelling, "You got to be kidding me! What?"
That
I said,
that
of course, I'm doing an interview, and everything goes off. But maybe it was meant to be. Who knows?
who knows, right? So, where can people? Because we have to wrap up on a little bit. So, where can people find you? So I can put your socials and everything when I edited this together. Where can people find you? What are some of the other films that you've done that people can look, and where they can find them?
Well, I'm on YouTube. A lot of our stuff is on YouTube. I
Hmm.
believe it's under Lance Reha,
Okay.
or Lake Films. It should pop up.
Okay.
Um, my Facebook. Facebook, I don't put too much stuff. It's more photography based. Um, my website has two parts to it. There's a photography and a Lake Films. I believe it's lancejrayphotography.com. And then that will bring you, it will say go to Lake Films, go to photography. So yeah, that's where they can find me. Or contact me online, Facebook, and I'll get back to you.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to be reaching out to you because I have some stuff I want to talk to you about now that have nothing to do with Still in the Hollow.
Okay, okay.
So
Yeah.
which I hope will be cool. But anybody, thanks for joining us. This is Lantera. His film Still will be shown at the Hollow, and with his coffee, coffee blackouts and all.
Yeah.
Right?
Perfect. I really appreciate it. It was
No,
great talking to you.
I appreciate you. You're lovely. So just hang out one second, and let's so while I end the recording.